Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. My name's Tina and I make videos on lifestyle and DIY projects every single week. Today's video is all about plants, but more specifically plants that you can decorate your home with. So I've gotten a few messages on Instagram and even on YouTube on my plants and questions on the best ones for your home, and I thought that I would put it all together into a video because right now, I'm super obsessed with plants. I've been a plant mom for about 3 years, I would say, so there's definitely been some trial and error. And some of the plants that I'm mentioning on this list today are plants that I've had in the past or plants that are on my wish list. A majority of them I do have, so they are all right behind me. And as you can see, it's a little bit of a plant family reunion back there. I have a list of about 15 plants that I want to show you guys. I thought this video would be a fun and helpful one to do because honestly, you cannot decorate a home without some plants. So let's get into the first category of plants. Okay, so we're starting off this video with statement plants, and these are the plants that are going to catch your attention or really fill up a space. So my top pick for a statement plant has to be the Monstera deliciosa. I have one right here behind me. You probably notice it in some of my videos. I don't even know if I can lift it, but let me bring it up closer. Okay, so this is my plant. Nothing's in focus now. This is such a weird angle. So this plant has some really beautiful, gorgeous leaves that have splits in them and also holes in them. As you know what, I'm gonna put this down, it's not working. I've had this for a couple years now, and the thing that's most appealing about this plant is the fenestrations or the splits in the leaves as well as the holes, which is why it's called a Swiss cheese plant. But I just can't get enough of this plant. It looks just so beautiful in any space that I see it in, and also they are very easy to take care of. So I feel like a lot of beginners to plants get intimidated by bigger plants like this one, but honestly this one is super easy to grow, and it's also a very fast grower. So right now we are in the spring and summer season, so it is growing season, and this thing puts out a new leaf or a couple new leaves every single week, and it's just such a great plant to have. So on the scale of 1 to 5 on the easiest level, I would have to give the Monstera a 5. It is just such an easy plant to take care of, and it also propagates pretty well. And I would say that these aren't as rare as they were before. So you can definitely find these at a Home Depot or even a Walmart or a Lowe's. You don't have to go to a specialty plant shop to find these anymore. It's honestly the plant that I fell in love with when I first became a plant mom, and it still is one of my favorites, and it's such a timeless, beautiful plant, so I definitely would recommend the Monstera. The second statement plant that I want to talk about is a Ficus lyrata, aka a fiddle leaf fig, and I feel like this is just the most popular plant to design with, but it is also one of the harder plants to take care of because of how finicky it is. It does require a lot more work, and they are also super expensive. So if you can, I would recommend buying a small fiddle leaf fig tree or a bush, because that way if you kill it, you'll only be wasting like $12 versus spending $60 or $70 or even $100 on this tree. Honestly, I've seen it go for a lot more than $100, but they are just so expensive if you buy them full size. So if you're going to kill it, might as well kill a small one. But it is such a beautiful tree to have in your home. You just really have to keep your eye on it. And that is why I gave this plant a 3 out of 5 on the easiness scale. So if you're up for a challenge, I definitely would recommend a fiddle leaf fig tree. Otherwise, I would stay away until you have better conditions to grow on. The next statement plant that I want to talk about is the bird of paradise, and more specifically the white bird of paradise, which give off the white bird-like blooms. I've heard that those are a lot easier to grow indoors, but even if it doesn't bloom, it still just looks so beautiful and gives you a beautiful tropical vibe to your space. They can get pretty large, so this would be a great statement piece in a living room, and I wish that I had space for one, but one day I will get a bird of paradise. I just think they are so beautiful, and even if you have a smaller space, you can buy them when they are a lot younger, and they are also still beautiful. So I would highly recommend a bird of paradise. I wish I had one to show you guys, but sadly I don't. The next two statement plants that I want to talk about are a lot smaller in size than the previous 3 that I mentioned, but they have such a beautiful pattern on the leaves that it does make such a statement. And the first one I want to talk about is the Begonia Immaculata, which is also known as an angel wing or a spotted begonia. And at first, I really did not like these plants. I did not understand the obsession with them. But then one day I saw a picture of one and my mind just totally changed. And it is such a beautiful and unique looking plant because they have a red underside and they also have these white spots on the leaves, and it looks like it's painted on the leaves. And I feel like this plant is one of those plants that either you love it or you hate it. And I definitely used to be in the hate it bucket, but now I just absolutely love the way it looks. And I will also say that this plant is not super rare where you can't get it unless you like know a guy who knows a guy who will give you a cutting. You can definitely find it in a local plant shop that specializes in plants rather than finding it at like a Home Depot or something like that. But definitely this is on my wish list right now, and I really, really wish I had one to show you guys. The last statement plant that I want to talk about is a Calathea ornata, also known as a pinstripe Calathea. And this plant belongs in the prayer plant family, which means the leaves go up during the night and then down during the day to get more sunlight. And it is just so cool to watch, especially if you have one or have seen a video of them going up and down during the night. And this plant is just so beautiful because it has these pink stripes on it that look almost like they're painted on. And it is just one of those beautiful, beautiful plants, but it is a lot harder to take care of because you have to have the right humidity for it. And this is speaking from experience because I used to have a Calathea and it was not the easiest to take care of. I will also mention that these require distilled water, so it is a very high maintenance diva plant. But I do think that if you are willing to put in the effort, it is definitely worth having because it is just so beautiful and one of a kind. And I also rate this a 3 out of 5 for easiness, but honestly, maybe it's more like a 2. I just don't know. So if I ever get one and I become a really, really crazy plant lady, I will update you guys for sure. So now we're gonna go into low light plants, and keep in mind that low light plants does not mean no light plants. So these plants will do well even if you want to put them further away from a window. So if you have a bathroom or a kitchen without windows, some of these plants will be a great option for you. So the best low light plant has to be the snake plant. And this is a plant that's always on everyone's list because it is such a structural plant, but it will grow and be okay if you leave it in the dark. So this snake plant has taken off a lot since I've gotten it. It mainly was just this middle section here, and then I got a bunch of these baby offshoots, and it's just been growing like crazy. So even though these grow well in low light, if you put it near a window, it's going to put out a lot more leaves. And I think I'm gonna have to transfer this into a bigger pot. But this is just such an easy plant, and you truly can't kill these. I don't like when people say that plants are indestructible because I definitely have killed plants on the plants you can't kill list, but this one truly is such a great plant and it's almost indestructible. So I would highly recommend a snake plant. They also come in different colors. So this snake plant is one that I got recently, and it is a night owl snake plant. It just has such a beautiful pale green color with the yellow outer edges. And I can't wait until this starts putting out little babies on the side, but I love snake plants and they truly are such an easy, great option. So I would rate these a 5 out of 5 on the easiness scale. Along with snake plants, I think the second most recommended low light plant has to be the ZZ plant. And I don't have one to show you guys, but I know that these are at IKEA all the time and they are just such cute, beautiful plants. These also will tolerate if you don't water it that often and if you don't have a lot of sunlight. So I would say that the ZZ and the snake plant are truly indestructible plants, and ZZs have such a distinct look to them. I think it also makes a great statement in your place. And this is also a plant that's going to last you years and years. And as you pot it into a larger pot, it's just gonna get bigger and bigger. So I definitely would recommend a ZZ if you're looking to put a low light plant into your home. The next low light plant that I want to talk about is the umbrella plant, also known as a Schefflera. And this plant, I feel like it's not that popular, but they are great low light plants. So I have this cutting from my parents' plant and it is rooting just the tiniest bit so far, but I just feel like this is such a beautiful plant. It has that beautiful radial look to it, and it also does really great in low light. My parents have a huge one in their house, and it is pretty far away from windows, and it does super well, and they were able to give me and my relatives some cuttings, so this plant really does super well. I can't wait for it to root because I really want to just pot it up and see this thing thrive. And if your parents have an umbrella plant, I definitely would recommend to just snip a piece off and start your own baby plant of it. I just love the way this looks, and I think it would make a great addition to any home. Another great low light option that I want to talk about is the bird's nest fern, and here's my bird's nest fern. It does look a little bit different than a typical one because this is the hurricane variety, so if you could see, it's kind of swirling, and it just has this really cool look to it. This plant will tolerate low light, but I think the main thing with it is just keeping the soil moist, so making sure that you have a lot of humidity. And what I like to do is actually just bottom water this plant, so every couple of days I just put water into the main planter, and then I just put the grow pot inside there, and it seems to be doing just fine. And this plant is just really fun to watch grow because the leaves that come in are so wavy and satisfying to look at, so I'll be sure to put some close-ups of this plant. And I know that ferns get a bad rap. If you ever watch Bretman Brock's Plant of the Day, you know what I'm talking about, but this one surprisingly is not that bad to take care of, and I would rate this one a 4 out of 5 on the easiness scale because it requires so much moisture. But other than that, it's an angel. The last low light plant that I want to mention today is the Pilea peperomoides. I don't know how to say it. It's really hard to say, but this plant was super popular maybe 2 years ago, and it was in such high demand that just getting a small version of the plant was like $30, but now you can find these pretty readily at Home Depot or Walmart. They really do have such a fun look to them because of how funky they look and how circular the leaves are. I think that this plant would look so great on a floating shelf or a bookshelf, and on the easiness scale, I will give this a 5 out of 5 because it produces so many babies. So you can go ahead and take out the babies and make a new plant for another part of your home. So Pileas are definitely a great option for a low light plant. The last category of plants that I want to talk about today are hanging plants, and these are also a great option if you want to put them higher up on a bookshelf or a floating shelf. But for the sake of putting a label on these plants, I'm just going to say hanging plant. And the first one I want to talk about is one that has been on my wish list for a very long time, and that is a Burros Tail, also known as a donkey tail. And for some reason, I can never find these in stores, even in a specialty plant shop. And not to mention, it is a little bit on the pricey side, especially if you're looking for a full hanger pot of it. But one day I will own one. I just think that these are so beautiful. They look so plump and would really add such interest to any space. So if you ever see one, definitely pick one up. They're also part of the succulent family, so you don't have to water them as often as other plants. They will retain their moisture. And if you live in a warmer climate, this plant will really thrive. So for that, I will give this plant a 4 out of 5 because I know some of y'all out there are not good at succulents. I actually am guilty of not doing that well with succulents. I just feel like I don't get enough sunlight, so that is definitely a problem. But if you do have a lot of sunlight in your place, definitely get a Burros Tail. So the next hanging plant that I want to talk about is actually not one plant, but it is a type of plant, and those are the string of blanks. And what I mean by that is there are so many different types of plants that start with string of. So you have string of pearls, string of bananas, string of turtles, string of hearts, string of dolphins, string of tears, and the list goes on and on and on. But I can't get enough of these beautiful trailing plants. I actually have a string of bananas with me, and this thing started off super tiny. I had these original 4 little plugs. When I got this plant, it basically just started off with these little pea looking pieces. I don't know what's the better way to say this. So when I first got this plant, it literally was this tiny little pot of them, and they basically just look like string beans. And now it has just grown so much. Can't wait for this thing to continue to thrive. and it just brings me so much joy seeing how big this has gotten. And I can't recommend string of plants enough because it is just so beautiful. It adds so much life and greenery to your space. So I really would recommend getting a string of plant. Next on my wish list is a string of turtles, but those are pretty expensive and also not as easy to get, but I'm pretty happy with my string of bananas. Also, the hanger that I have it in is actually an old purse, and it just fit in here perfectly and it looks so cute, and I'm super happy with how it looks. But yeah, just thought I would mention that. Okay, we're down to the 13th plant, and this one is such a beautiful hanging plant, but for now I have it in this pot just because I don't have enough hanging plants. But this is a heartleaf philodendron, and it is just so beautiful. So if you look at the leaves, they are just this perfect heart shape, and these come in different varieties as well. So this one is just a regular one, but you can also get a neon one or a philodendron Brazil, and those are just so beautiful. But this plant is just so easy to take care of. It looks beautiful in a hanging basket, and I would give this probably a 5 out of 5 on the easiness scale. I have not had any trouble with this plant, and this plant is actually one that I propagated from my aunt's mother plant, and it is really just thriving. It's starting to fill up here, and it's also starting to trail a little bit more. It's getting there, but I just love this so much, and I'm so happy that I added this to my plant collection. All right, so we are down to the last 2 plants on my list, and this is kind of cheating because the last 2 plants are actually in the same family. But the first one is a Pothos, and these just come in so many different variations. So you can get them variegated like a Marble Queen Pothos, or you can get them neon. You can get them with yellow variegations like a golden Pothos, but there are so many different colors that you can choose from, and this is also a great plant for beginners. People also claim that you can't kill this plant, but I have in the past killed a Pothos. So if you've ever had any trouble with some low light plants, don't feel guilty, because I definitely had my fair share of plant murders. And that's definitely not something that I'm proud of, but you just have to keep going and learning and buying new plants and killing plants until you get to the point where all of your plants are happy. And I'm so grateful that I am a plant mom that can keep her plants happy as of today, but who knows, that might change when I get a more complicated plant. So for my last plant, it is also part of the Pothos family, but it just looks so beautiful and unlike any regular Pothos, and that is a Scindapsus pictus, also known as a Silvery Ann or a silver Pothos. And this just has such a beautiful sheen to it. And if you've ever seen silver plants, they are just so beautiful, and they have this velvet-like look to them as well as this beautiful sheen. And what's also great about this plant is that it is also super easy to take care of, so you can put it into low light situations like on top of a cabinet, or just hang it somewhere a little bit further away from the window and it'll do just fine. So for these last 2, I would give them a 5 out of 5 on the easiness scale. And just like all of the other plants on this list, I wish that I had one to show you guys. Honestly, this video is kind of like a wish list video, but I also hope that it gave you some good ideas of some plant options that would work well in your space. So those are all the plants that I wanted to talk about today. I am sure that there are so many others that would fit onto this list. So if I missed one, please put them in the comments down below. I am planning on doing a shelf styling video after this one, so you'll be sure to see more of my plant collection. And yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you haven't already, please give this video a like and also subscribe for new videos every single week. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram to see more from me every single day. And that's it for today's video. Stay inspired. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!